Okay, so in academia, we are required to write research papers or research articles. And in this first part of our presentation, I will run you through how to write a research paper and provide you some useful tips for academic writing. First important thing for you is to think from reader's perspective, right? So when you're writing, you have to bear in mind who are your audience, and you must try to make your paper or your writing easily accessible. So there must be signposts. Your paper or your introduction must have a clear idea. So what is it about? And what is your contribution to it? It should be easy. So what we normally advise, how to read a research article. You first read an abstract. If it's interesting for you, look into the keywords, then introduction, and then before reading the main body, you go to the conclusion. This is how you get the gist of the paper. And when you're writing, you should also think about it. And mostly your introduction and your conclusion must be written in the end. So you have written main body of your paper, and then you write your introduction and then conclusion. So what are the goals of academic writing? There could be multiple goals. It could be persuasive. You want to change the views of your readers. So the purpose is to change their view. You want to provide them information, you want to provide them arguments, and your purpose is that you want to persuade them to change their view. And you can do it with the help of your argument, with the help of reason or evidence. Another purpose could be analytical. So here you evaluate, analyze, explain, dissect a particular problem. And the purpose is basically to try to understand, to analyze a particular phenomena, a particular issue, a particular problem. And the third purpose could be, which is very common, informative. You simply want to convey information. You have done your readings, you have looked into several sources, and now you want to provide this information to your readers. This is a new information. Now bear in mind that these three, persuasive, analytical, and informative purposes, are not mutually exclusive. One paper might have all these three or a combination of them, right? So this need to be borne in mind. And while you're choosing the topic, you have to bear certain points in your mind. So choose a topic that interests you and your readers. And as I said in the beginning, that whenever you're writing, you must bear your audience in your mind always. And you must also make sure that you fulfill the guidelines, if there are guidelines given for an essay regarding word limit, regarding citation style, regarding what font to be used, whether it must be double spaced, single spaced, or if it's to be published, to be submitted in printed form, whether it should be on one page or it could be on both sides of the pages. So all these guidelines must be borne in mind. And if you are using sources, you make sure that you use credible sources. So most of the time in student essays, students refer to Wikipedia. Wikipedia in itself is not an authentic source. So what you can do is that you read from Wikipedia and then go to the actual sources. So you might be reading an article in Wikipedia, you read that article, and in that article, they might have referred to a book. Then go to the book and directly quote the book rather than Wikipedia. This is how you rely on credible sources rather than sources whose credibility is opaque. And when choosing your topic, always bear in mind that you have to start from general and then you go to the specific. right? So your topic must not be either too broad or too narrow. You always start from the broad and then slowly narrow it down. So here is the example of lies, and then lying to my mother is more specific, and then my first childhood lie is very specific. Now, if we want to apply this in law, so you may say first law, then the second more narrow would be contract, and the third narrower would be consideration, right? So this is how always use this concept of funnel to be more specific for your topic. And when you want to start writing, you may start from brainstorming. Brainstorming is really important. Write down what are the possible answers. Write down all the information you have, opinions, questions about a particular topic. And what would be the use of brainstorming? That you would know what you know, and you will think about the things that you don't know, and that will then prepare you to do further research. Yeah, so brainstorming is really important, and always try to write it down. So writing it down always helps, because sometimes you may have some good idea, and then later you may forget about it. So as a research student, we are always encouraged to keep a journal, right? So keep a handbook, and if you come across an interesting idea, write it down. While you're reading an article, while you're reading a book, be an active reader. Or if it's allowed, you can just take notes or use sticky tapes, right? While you're reading, and then when you want to write, your notes would be very helpful. And how do you do your research for your paper? You may refer to different sources. These could be journals, books, newspapers, other publications, primary sources, or simply the internet. You should start. Often students ask me where to start doing research. So should we start from books? Should we start from primary sources or secondary sources? And my answer always is that it's a circular process. So sometimes you just read an article on the internet, and from that article, you read about a statute or a case law. Then you go and read that statute or case law. Or you read a blog post, and that blog post refers to an article. You read that article, and then that article refers to case law or statute or some other sources. You go and then read it. So it's more of a detective's work. So you can start from anywhere, and then through the sources, you just go to other sources. Yeah. So you may start from newspaper, that may lead to judgment. That may lead to judgment may lead to official report. Official report may lead to policy paper. It may refer legal commentary, and then there might be case law compilation, or research paper, or articles, or books, or databases, or blog posts, or newspaper, even films and documentaries. YouTube videos sometimes are really important, even Instagram posts. So start from wherever you want to start, and then you just move to further sources. And here is a list of some of the sources. The great way to start research is Google Scholar. So instead of using Google, try to use Google Scholar, because Google Scholar gives you published, reliable sources. And then you can look into encyclopedias, thesauruses, or dictionaries, or different databases. Now, introduction of your academic writing is really important. So important is that you must leave it till the end. Normally, you may think that, oh, you would write your introduction in the beginning of your research. Introductions are written at the end of your research. Introduction provides the very gist of your whole research. So what is your topic? What are your findings? What are your sources? How your paper is structured? So a good introduction must be written in the end, and it must provide the gist of whatever you have done in your research. And the reader should be able, after reading the introduction, the main summary or the main points of your paper. And here are some tips for writing good introductions. Try not to overuse facts, because if you say for instance, if you're writing about divorce and if you just give data, oh, the divorce rate has increased, and here are the number from Karachi, here are the number from Lahore, and this person has said that Mufti has said that, oh, divorce is a big issue, this and that. Well, then what? This must not be in the introduction. If you're writing, say, a paper about divorce, it must say that what specific aspect you're looking into. Are you looking into women's right to divorce? Is it about khula? Is it about fuss? Is it about divorce because of gender, domestic violence, or is it a divorce in urban area, or is it a divorce in rural area? So try to be very specific, very precise. Don't overload your reader with lots of facts without contextualizing them. And try not to repeat the similar ideas. So there is this tendency that your introduction, your abstract say one thing, then your introduction repeat the same thing, and then your conclusion says the same thing. So try not to repeat similar ideas. And academic language is different from common language. You must master this art. Try to avoid contractions. So it must not be can't. In academic writing, it has to be cannot. You can't write I'll. It has to be I shall. Similarly, won't. It have to be would not. Try to avoid idioms hand and glove with much waters have passed under the bridges, or colloquial expressions or cliches. Similarly, emotional or strong language must also be avoided. At the same time, academic writing does not mean that you must be overly simplistic. Um, uh, Use formal language. What are over generalizations that need to be avoided? Always, every, many, never, nobody, none creates inaccuracies. All the lawyers are cheats. All the bankers are corrupt. All the politicians are bad. All the cricketers are hardworking. So these are overgeneralizations, and they must be avoided, specifically in academic writing. So whatever you say, it must be qualified. And what does overgeneralization look like? Here are some examples. As everyone knows, she was always smiling. People love her cooking. This is most exciting movie. Stuff like that, right? So wherever you just want to make a sweeping statement, that's overgeneralization. It's important in your paper that you signpost. If you're writing more than 3,000 word essay, it must always have headings: introduction, main body, and then conclusion. And in main body, you can have subheadings also that really help the reader navigate. Or you can go through this, we can skip it. So how should introduction look like? This essay will first examine, outline, address, demonstrate, argue, focus, and then attempt to ascertain, establish, show, judge, and prove. So this is how the introduction should look like. This is the language. And in the main body, what kind of language we should use. Having established this, essay will now next consider. In addition to as well, must be, should be done. So recommendation established is an important a key issue has to be considered, another second or equal important, right? So if you're looking again into a women's right to finances or property. So you say, having presented the statistics where women are generally deprived from landholding rights, now I want to look into how women's right to property could be improved or could be protected. Or if you say, uh, having shown you the statistics on domestic violence, now I want to explore that how we can remedy, how we can tackle this problem. Or poverty is this big issue in Pakistan. About more than 50% population lives below poverty line because they earn less than what is required to sustain themselves. Poverty is a big problem. Then that leads to other problems such as crime and violent crimes. Now I want to consider how to deal with this problem, or how you want to assess that what actions have been taken during past 10 years to tackle the issue of poverty. Similarly, you can apply this same pattern to different issues. And your conclusion, it must also signpost that this is conclusion, right? So in conclusion, I want to say three things. So based on my research, I found out that this, and based on my research, I reached this conclusion. Or based on my my research on this and this source, I have come to these three conclusions: 1, 2, 3. So stuff like that. So this is about the structure, right? So I want to finish it